Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 19th. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so in our devotions for this week, we are looking at our mental health and all the different things that might impact that and the importance of taking care of our mental health. Yesterday, we were reading from the Psalms, and we discovered that no matter where we go, no matter what kind of decisions we make, no matter what struggles we have, even in our darkest moments, God goes with us. There's nowhere we can go where we can escape God or be separated from God. And that's so important for us to remember that even when we struggle with mental or physical illness, when our spirituality seems far and distant, even when we attempt to reject God in our darkest moments, and when we feel that we are separated from connections of other people with God, even in those moments when we have thoughts that are seemingly crazy, God is still with us. God does not abandon us. God stays with us. And that's so important that we know that when we struggle in those deep struggles, those valleys where despair sometimes can feel like it's overcoming us, God is still with us. God is still right there beside us, and God is not afraid of the things that we think about, the things that we struggle with, even the things we do and say. For the next several days, I want to look at the stories of one of the heroes of the Bible, Elijah. Elijah was a great prophet of God that did miraculous things, that had great spiritual and supernatural victories. I want to examine his life and go each day. We're going to be going and looking at some different moments in his life, because Elijah was someone who struggled with his mental health. Elijah had great highs, but he also had some very significant lows where he got desperate, where depression overcame him, where he doubted and criticized God. So I want to look at his life and what are the lessons that we can learn, not just about our faith and our spiritual journeys, but also about our mental health. What are some truths that we can hold on to, and what are some ways that God looks at us and God moves in our lives that can be helpful to us? So I want to begin with 1 Kings chapter 17. I'm going to be doing some readings from that part of the Old Testament about the story about the life of Elijah. We're going to begin with the very first mention of Elijah. Elijah just bursts on the scene. We have no idea where he comes from, but all of a sudden, boom, he's there and he's interacting with the story of God and God's people. 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, "As surely as the Lord God of Israel lives, the God I serve, there will be neither dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word." Then the Lord said to Elijah, "Go to the east and hide. Hide near where the Kerith brook enters into the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food." So Elijah did as the Lord told him and camped beside Kerith brook, east of the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat each morning and evening, and he drank from the brook. But after a while, the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Then the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. I have instructed a widow there to feed you." So he went to Zarephath, and as he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, "Would you please bring me a little water in a cup?" As she was going to get it, he called to her, "Bring me a bite of bread too." But she said, "I swear by the Lord your God that I don't have a single piece of bread in the house, and I have only a handful of flour left in the jar and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and then my son and I will die." But Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go ahead and do just what you've said, but make me a little bread for me first. Then use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again." So she did as Elijah said, and she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and oil left in the containers, just as the Lord promised through Elijah. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So here we have the story of Elijah. Elijah is going to be this man of God who's going to become famous. But at this point, he's not very famous at all. He just bursts on the scene. He goes straight to the king, and he has this incredible pronouncement. You know, it's not going to rain, and there's going to be drought, and nothing's going to happen until I say so. And then God tells him, "Go and hide." Now, God tells him to go and hide because very quickly, once it stops raining, King Ahab is going to search and he's going to want to kill Elijah. So Elijah is going to have to go into hiding. He's going to be there for 3 years while this drought goes on, and they search the king and the king's men search for him and try and get him to come back and force him to make it rain. But Elijah is going to go into hiding. God tells him to go into hiding. So first we see this incredible moment where all of a sudden Elijah is chosen. He's an important guy. He's got a message to deliver it to the king of all people. Now, for my self-esteem, if I was given a message to go give to President Trump and it was very clear that it was from God, I'd feel pretty good about myself. Hey, I've been chosen by God. I'm a messenger. I'm a person of value. I have importance. But very quickly, Elijah is going to struggle. He goes into hiding. He doesn't understand why. Well, he probably figures out why he has to go into hiding. But he's going to begin to complain as he's in hiding because, okay, God, why don't you do something? And that refrain, God, do something, is going to repeat itself over and over again as he's in hiding. You'll notice that in this story, God really is doing something. He's doing something miraculous. He's having ravens bring food to Elijah to eat. Now, for you and me and for most people, that would build up our faith. Oh, wow, God's great. The ravens, birds are bringing me food. That would show us, yes, God is really there. God's really with me. But we, like Elijah, would probably grow tired of this raven miracle after a few days, and that's what happens with Elijah. He begins to once again complain and question God, and so God tells him to go find this widow, and she'll feed him if the ravens aren't good enough. And so Elijah goes. And what does he discover with this woman? Another woman who's having a very deep struggle. She is desperate. She is hungry. There's no food, no money, nothing for her and her son. She's a widow. She can't work. She doesn't have anybody help. No family's providing for them. She can't work herself. And so she's given up. She's going to do one last meal, then her and her son are going to die. And once we start thinking about death and that the end is here, that is the low point for many of us in our struggles with our mental health. It's a real point. It's a real struggle. And those questions can be overwhelming and difficult. And the truth here is that when we start struggling and wondering about death and thinking about the end is going to happen and there's nothing I can do, so I just ought to give up, those are the times when we need other people the most. There are times in our lives when we can't deal with all of this on our own, and so we need help. So what does God do? God takes Elijah, who's struggling, who's having to hide because he's been chosen as an instrument, as the voice, the messenger of God, because that his life is in danger, so he has to go out in hiding. And he's really doubting about whether or not the ravens are going to continue to feed him. God's going to use a man who's struggling with being down in depression, and he's going to bring him into the life of someone else who's struggling with depression. And together, they are going to survive. This is what God does over and over again. God creates community where otherwise we would never find it. One of the things that we can very easily miss is that Elijah is no longer in Israel when he's hiding. He's actually across the border. And this woman who he is connecting with, you'll see in her words, by your God, I swear. She is not Jewish. She is not a follower of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. She is not someone who is going to readily believe in the same God. So these are foreigners. They probably speak different languages, and yet they're coming together and they're creating community, dependent community where they need each other. Elijah needs her, and she needs Elijah, and she needs Elijah's God and the blessings that God brings through Elijah. God is creating community where otherwise there wouldn't be community. And through that community, they are struggling and overcoming and dealing with the problems of mental illness. That is a truth that we have to realize. That's a truth that we have to hang on to. On our own, the struggle is going to be immense, and it's always better in community. That's why we have so many resources that connects us with other people. And it doesn't have to be necessarily someone else who's struggling with the same thing you are. Elijah's struggles and this widow's struggles are very different, but we all have struggles. And what we have to go away from is this idea that people with mental illness should be hidden and they should just go on their own and connect with other people with mental illness and get together and they'll just help each other out. But us real people are healthy. We can lead normal lives. And the reality is that none of us are normal. We all struggle with our mental health. We all need help. In the last 8 weeks in COVID-19 and being sequestered in our own homes has just shown some of the struggles that we all have. But it also has taught us that we need community. We need trusted companions. We need people we can be open with. and we need to network with others to find help. So let that be our lesson for today. Let us not struggle on our own. Let us form communities and be open and vulnerable about our own struggles with other people, small groups, small communities where we're going hand in hand, where we're being trusted companions for others so that we're not in this journey alone. Community matters. Amen. Amen. We have just a quick announcement. We have these wonderful yard signs. You can see they say, stay calm, stay safe, trust in God. They also have our name. I'm trying to get it far enough back so everybody can see it. They also have our name in them, as well as a way to get contact in our church. We want to place these in your yard so that people will know that we're still here, that we're still available for them, so we can still connect with our community. Call the church office and find out how we can get it into your yard. That would be wonderful. So please do that. Today's Tuesday, tomorrow night, Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock, we have our prayer meeting. Don't forget to send me your prayer requests. You can either send them through the app. There's a section on there to send prayer requests in, and they come directly to me. Or please feel free to email me your prayer requests, pastor@alpinelutheran.com. In the meantime, take care. Look in on those who are most vulnerable. See you tomorrow.